Today we're looking at the Lenovo ThinkPad T540p laptop sporting a 4th gen Intel Core i5-4300M CPU at 2.6 GHz, Intel HD graphics 4600, 15.6-inch 1366 by 768 HD display, track point and 5-button glass touchpad, fingerprint reader, 720p webcam, Dolby Advanced Audio, a mini DisplayPort with audio, VGA port, 2x USB 3.0, SD card reader, smart card reader, optical drive, 2x USB 2.0, an Intel dual band wireless 7260 AC with Bluetooth 4.0 adapter, and native RJ45 Ethernet port, and as you can see here, a square type power adapter. And it also has a 2-tiered backlit keyboard and several other features which we'll get into with the upgrades. So the upgrades that we'll be installing today are a Transcend 128GB m.2 SATA 3 solid state drive, a refurbished Toshiba solid state drive, also 128GB. This one being the more traditional SATA connection and 2.5-inch drive case, and not one but two 4GB DDR3 1600 MHz RAM sticks. So it's actually quite easy to install these. We'll just get to it. First we need to unplug the battery. Next up, we can remove 2 screws here and one screw here. Alright, as you can see, we have our RAM slots right here. We have our 2.5-inch hard drive bay, and up here we have the Wi-Fi adapter, probably slash Bluetooth, or CMOS battery, and of course, most important for this demonstration, the m.2 SSD slot. We also have what appears to be a removable CPU, so that could be a future video as well if I find something to upgrade it with, which would be pretty fun. So let's start with the RAM 6. Okay, now on to the 2.5-inch drive bay, which we'll put the solid state drive in. Just one screw right here. Okay, and next up, the m.2 SSD. So we'll start by removing the little screw right here. And now we'll take the Transcend SSD out of the package. Alright, so we'll install with the label facing up just for reference. So after you've installed the SSD at a bit of a slant here, you'll feel it fits pretty snug into the slot, and they can hold it down and carefully use the screw that we took out and put that back in to hold the SSD in place. In less than 5 minutes, we've installed the RAM, the solid state drive, 2.5-inch, and the m.2 SSD. So let's put the caps back on. Okay, so before we go ahead and install Windows 10, I'm just going to boot into BIOS and we'll just make sure everything's showing up. We'll change the boot order, we will set the date and time, and we'll do whatever else we need to do. Before we do move on, one charming feature that I wanted to point out is the battery LED indicator is built into the ThinkPad logo and lights up the characteristic red dot we've come to know and love. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we have safely booted into BIOS. As we can see here, we have the Intel Core i5 4300M CPU at 2.6 gigahertz. It's a pretty good CPU. We actually have 12 gigabytes of memory installed. I probably made a short note of that as I was installing it previously in the video, but there's one 8 gigabyte stick and one 4 gigabyte stick. So let's go over to date and time and make sure it's correct. Yes, it is. Oops. Aside from the minutes. Okay, so I always like to, at least with this line of ThinkPads, I like to check out the I/O port access. Sometimes they come to me and things like Bluetooth and other items are disabled, but it looks like we're all good to go here. Go to startup, and our boot will make the m.2 SSD option number 1, as it will have Windows installed onto it. And that is this, the TSI28 or TS128 GMT-S430S. That is the m.2 SSD. We have our Toshiba SSD, excuse me. Make that number 2, and I think we're pretty good to go. So I'll hit F10 to save and exit. I'll grab my Windows 10 USB and we'll get started. I'll show you how I like to first set up the system to install Windows 10. So we'll hit the power button and we'll hit enter to reach the menu, the startup interrupt menu. Hit enter to pause, and we'll hit F12 to choose the temporary startup device, which will be the USB. In this case, the generic flash disk. So what I typically like to do while I'm installing Windows is enter Disk Partition through the command prompt in order to format the drives before I install Windows. So usually you can hit Shift F10 and that will pull up command prompt. In this case it doesn't seem to be working, so once you get to this screen I'll show you how to access command prompt. Okay, so we want to click on repair your computer, and once here we want to troubleshoot, and of course we have the option to open command prompt right here. And at this point we can enter Disk Partition by typing Diskpart, all one word. Diskpart. Okay, once you're in Diskpart, we can type list space disk. And as you can see here, we have our disk 0, disk 1, and disk 2. 0 and 1 being the 2 SSDs and number 2 being the USB. We'll select disk 0 by typing select disk 0. And once that's selected, we can type clean. Once that's done, we can select disk 1 and also clean. Of course, we're not going to select disk 2 because it's in use. It probably wouldn't let you anyways, so we'll just type exit and exit again. Okay, at this point we'll restart the PC and enter Windows 10 installation. Or we'll come back after Windows 10 is installed and give a brief overview, as well as maybe show off things like the fast boot and things this laptop is capable of doing. Of course, before we move on, I'll just quickly show how to install Windows 10. We'll hit next, install now. And being as, oh, my bad. One thing I will have to do, because this was previously running Windows 7, we have a Windows 7 product key underneath the battery. Now we can safely take the battery out so long as the adapter is still plugged in. Otherwise we will risk just having the laptop shut down completely. We have our Windows 7 product key right under here. So usually I just take a picture with my cell phone because it's a lot easier than looking back and forth from the screen to under the laptop case. Alright, I'll take a moment to enter in the activation key. Alright, so now we're at the menu where we can choose where we want to install Windows to. Just in case, I'll show you a trick. You forget which drive you want to install to, which one's your hard drive, which one's your solid state drive, or you forget the capacity. You can open up command prompt. I know I said earlier that Shift plus F10 was not working for me, but it turned out that my second function was locked on the keyboard, so now I can hit Shift and F10. We have command prompt. And to get the drive information, we want to type WMIC space disk drive, all one word, get model space name and size. That should be good. Okay, so as you can see here, we have our Toshiba solid state drive is drive 0 and the m.2 SSD is drive 1. So now that you know, you can type exit, and of course we want to select drive 1 being the m.2 SSD, which is already selected. We can just go ahead and click next, start installing Windows. So I'll come back once we're done with that. So now that we have Windows 10 installed, I'm going to eject my Windows 10 USB. And we'll get to installing some Windows updates before we move on. So we hit the Windows key, type update. Oops. And check for updates, which looks like this. So we'll get updating and we'll come back. Alright, so we have Windows 10 up and running quite well. It's quite nice. So one thing that we can do is use command prompt. You can also use PowerShell to set up the hard drive as storage device. So to do this, we can hit the Windows key, type CMD, and we'll click on Run as Administrator. Okay, of course we'll click Yes. And what we want to do in command prompt is again enter Disk Partition. So to do that, we'll type Diskpart, all one word. And at this point, we'll type list disk. And we want to set up disk 0 as storage drive, so we can type select disk 0. Okay, and now we can type create partition primary size 100 gigabytes, or type create partition primary size equals 100,000 megabytes, equaling 100 gigabytes. So we type create space partition space primary space size equals 100,000. Okay, and it says Diskpart succeeded in creating the specified partition. And at this point, we'll assign a drive letter to it. We'll pick letter D. So we can type assign space letter equals D. Alright, and as we can see, Windows recognized the hard drive, and we are all ready to set it up. You can see that file manager down here is flashing. So we'll click on that. It says you need to format the disk in drive D before you can use it. Yeah, we can go ahead and click Format Disk. Start. Okay. Alright, now format is complete. So we're actually done with disk partition and command prompt now, so we can type exit and exit again. And we'll click on File Manager again. Click on this PC. And as we can see here, our local disk drive D is ready to go. So one thing that I do like to do, or that I typically like to do, especially when I'm setting up new refurbished computers, I like to move all the popular folders like downloads, documents, pictures, music, and videos to the storage drive, just so it frees up space for the operating system on the other solid state drive. So to do that, we'll right click a folder like downloads, go to properties, go to location, move, select this PC, and we can navigate down to local disk D, new folder, downloads, select folder, apply, and yes. Of course, we can also do this in command prompt and PowerShell, and maybe I'll demonstrate that in this video or another time. In the meantime, I'm going to finish up setting up the storage drive, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so another thing I noticed, and you'll have to do some research yourself and try out the laptop once you install Windows 10. This does occasionally happen. I noticed that we have no two-finger scrolling. There's some touchpad functions that aren't working, and we also don't have Bluetooth showing up. So we're going to navigate to the ThinkPad driver website and take a look. Okay, so once here we can click on Manual Update, and we have Windows 10 selected. First off, we'll navigate down to Mouse, Pen, and Keyboard, and here we have the Synaptics ThinkPad Ultra Nav driver for Windows 10. So we're going to want to download that. Alright, so once that's ready, we can just follow the setup by clicking Next and installing the drivers. So setup is complete. We can click Finish. It is recommending that we restart, but we'll restart later because we have one more driver to download. So go back here and back to Components. Click on Bluetooth and Modem, and if I'm not mistaken, I think we need to download Intel Wireless Bluetooth 4.0 adapter. Alright, so again, just follow the setup instructions and we'll install the Bluetooth adapter. As indicated by the small Bluetooth icon in the Windows tray, I believe it did install A-OK. So we'll restart the system just to install the Synaptics driver, and then we'll go over some more features of the laptop before finishing up the video. Alright, so that concludes the how to install the m.2 SSD, 2.5-inch SSD, and RAM, as well as install Windows 10 and figure out some drivers on the ThinkPad T540p. This is a really wonderful laptop with lots of little features, high definition webcam, 2 USB 3.0, 2 USB 2.0, our CD drive, our optical drive off to the right here, and as well as VGA and DisplayPort, mini DisplayPort with audio if you wanted to connect it to your TV via a HDMI adapter. So there's tons you can use this laptop for in 2021 and beyond, and I would definitely recommend it. And I'm kind of tempted to keep this one for myself too, but I'll probably be selling it. So I'll be releasing another video for a test run, and we'll go over tons of features and improvements and performance in that video, so I'll link to that. So as always, I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a nice day. Thanks for watching.